festive season. And let me say to you right now, it's a lot more than just buying the Christmas turkey. I guess it's about not being a turkey when it comes to planning. Let me just run you through our program very quickly. In just a moment, Janine van der Straten is going to join us. She's the Executive Strategy, Stakeholder Relations and Legal at Proudly South African, and going to open the proceedings for us with a look at the Proudly South African campaign, and maybe just to revisit the mandate very briefly. Then I'm going to lead a panel discussion with some very smart entrepreneurial people. Dumi Mahlangu, founder of Chepa Streetwear, along with Noni Ditsejo, founder of the Vutomi Group. I'll also be talking to Pelisa Matlolo, Group Category Manager at SPAR. And then we've got two video presentations for you. One from Lee Tobin, who is founder of Alphabet Social, along with Liz Letswalo, who is the founder of Masodi Organics. So I make the time just after 12 o'clock on this Thursday, and we have got a lot to get through in the next 2 hours. I think the idea is to give you some thought starters in terms of planning for the season against, and I don't need to tell you this because I'm not in the business of retail, but against the backdrop of real consumer and economic pressure. And I would contend that content, the management of content, the strategy around content has never been more important, has never been more ripe to promote and encourage local buying. I'm a big fan of that. So it's good to be with you. I haven't been with the Proudly South African team for a while. Good to see some familiar faces, even though it is online. And Janine, I'm going to cross straight over to you. I'll switch my camera off and we can get the ball rolling with you.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, and hello to everybody. Just checking the lighting is okay. You can all see me. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I must say, let me share my presentation. Whilst I do that, I'd like to just say it's really an honor to share this presentation with you. Ordinarily, I would be talking to businesses or government. So this is now my opportunity to showcase the work that we're doing in the consumer space. So of course, the slides will be a lot brighter and the videos will be quite uplifting and fast-paced. So very excited to be sharing this time with you and this presentation specifically. As you all know, the country faces a triple challenge. We are all aware of it. Unfortunately, COVID hasn't made it easier. And Proudly South African is the organization to make sure that we talk about these three issues. It's inequality, poverty, unemployment. And our tagline is connected to that. It's Be Proudly South African, buy local to create jobs. So what we are a lobbyist group. So we ask the consumers to make the buy local decision. That's how they can showcase their pride and support of South Africa, fellow South Africans who are unemployed, etc. So you make that local choice, you inevitably will create demand, which means jobs will be created locally. If you choose a product from abroad, you are creating demand for more imports, for more job creation in another country. So that's the kind of messaging we share with consumers, to be quite blunt. And really, it's the truth. We know that. And it's not the good news that we have to share today. But what we do entail, I want to share with you what we do in the consumer space to really convince them. I'm sure by the end of this presentation, you will all be converted. We all have jobs in the private sector. We all, some of us, if we are employed, and then of course some colleagues also work in government. And even though we might be working for private companies or government, if we have jobs, we are still consumers in our own right. So we all have a duty to do the right thing and make the buy local procurement decision. Now, buy local campaign is not really special for South Africa, meaning that it's not the only one of its kind. Most countries in the world have their own buy local campaigns. So I know you would know the work that the UK is doing. It's called Keep It Local, Philippines, Buy Local, Go Local. And of course, Australia, which is Australian made, we were actually modeled off that campaign. But we have since grown, and it talks to our social standing, it talks to our structures in government and the private sector, etc. And we have really grown and expanded. Our campaign, when we just started, was really Madiba's vision. And that was back in 1998, actually. In 1998, a long time ago, it was his vision that there be a buy local campaign for the country. So it's a very special campaign because it was his idea. And not just that, we also, our campaign is not just targeted for towards the consumers in terms of encouraging them to buy local, but it's also, we've got some programs in place to encourage government to buy local over and above those items that they are regulated, or that is regulated for them to buy local, as well as we appeal to the private sector. So it's festive season time. We're talking consumers today. Ordinarily, consumers do have a greater spend during the festive season. So we think it's an opportune moment to ask them to do the right thing. We also have the slide that talks about the US case study, and I know there's talks about Trump running again, but there's a good example in what President Trump did and now President Biden, and is really to put America first. And that's a messaging that he put across, Trump and Biden, when they came into power in the States. So it's really something we can take a leaflet from that book, to say South Africa, be proudly South African, buy local. So we just always utilize that case study. I know I'm talking to the converted, but very quickly, the importance of localization. I know there are a lot of naysayers out there. You'll see it in the media, but we, it's inevitable that if you localize, you of course contribute to job retention, and then of course, ideally to create more jobs. So it all talks about driving demand. Of course, it talks to skills development. So if there's more demand, there'll be ask for more products or a wider variety, etc. So skills development is definitely a benefit of localization. Economic development. I mean, if you keep the money within the country, there's no reason for it to leave, and that really talks to economic development. And empowerment. So we are very passionate for our membership base consists of large businesses, majority are small businesses, Black-owned businesses, a variety of women-owned businesses, etc. And we find that the private sector is wanting to buy specifically more from certain sectors of our population. So we very much advocates for empowerment, as well as improved living standard. Of course, if you've got more money to spend, your lifestyle will drastically change. Also talks to infrastructure development. So if there's money in the country, if we can localize, address value chain disruptions, and bring back factories that were closed because of the imports that took place some 10, 20 years ago, infrastructure development is definitely a benefit. Then, of course, increasing the country's GDP. And then also talks to balance of trade. So we really, if you localize, you are going to be exporting more and importing less. Our mandate, very, very broadly, is really we're a lobbyist group. We lobby for the private sector, the public sector, as well as the everyday consumer to buy local. And we do this through a number of skill tools we have available, as well as through activations and programs, etc. And this webinar is one such way to get the message across. But our fourth focus area is really one thing that is new to the organization, and that's our current strategy for the next couple of years, is to promote the accessibility of locally made products. It's all good and well to say to everybody, buy local, but if they don't know where to find the products, then it's not beneficial to anyone. So we have put some tools in place, online platforms, etc., to make that happen within the private sector and the public sector. And through consumers, we find that, of course, being on television, being on radio, organizing events, partnering, expos, etc., that is the way to get the message out to consumers, as well as utilizing our member companies to assist us. And I'll showcase a little bit how that is done. So sometimes people ask, what is our role? Where do we lie in the value chain? We lie slap bang in the middle of the retail value chain. This is the best example to utilize. So remember, I did mention that if we can stimulate demand, if we can stimulate demand, we can expand on our product offering as a country, and that is our role, is to stimulate demand. So So if I can just paint the picture for you, a manufacturer it's a company making a product. The questions are, where do they get their raw materials from? Where do their components come from? So even before they can make that product, of course, they need to source these items. And also there's a service component to that, in that they need to pay for a cleaning bill, or they need to pay for a courier service, etc. So there's also a value chain within how they buy. So our interest is very much in that element, in those elements. But then if a product, a raw material is not available locally, or components are not available locally, which is very much the case, we look at where the product is assembled. So for instance, OEM, a car assembly line, we've got 7 in the country. A lot of them are member companies of ours. They have created factories. They've employed hundreds of people, if not thousands. And looking at the automotive sector, there are so many elements to a car. It's unbelievable. So we really promote that as much as possible, that whole vehicle, for instance, is manufactured locally. And so it goes on to many different products across all sectors. And then we work with retailers. So we're also very, very grateful. A lot of the clothing, textile, footwear, and leather retailers are member companies of ours. I'm sure when you go into a Mr. Price or into one of TFG's stores, you'll find the logo there. And it really guides consumers to find the locally made product. So we work with retailers. And of course, their buying power, not just their house brands, which they can choose to buy locally made products to put in those packaging, but also the shelf space awarded to local products. That is what we are lobbying for. And then we also work with consumers and ask them to buy local. And I'll showcase you some of the work we've done in the past. We're a membership-based organization. So even though we do appeal to consumers to choose the Made in SA label of origin, we are also not shy to say, look out for the Proudly SA logo first, before anything else. If you can't find it on a product, meaning that company is not a member of ours, or that product is not made locally by our member, then look out for the Made in SA label of origin. So any organization can join us. So even the school can join us because they've got buying power. So, and we've got a lot of businesses that are manufacturing products, as well as businesses in the services industry. So we vet in accordance with 4 key criteria. So that logo, when you see it, it means 4 things. It is that product made locally? So we check local content. Where does the quality, is that product, has it been tested? And how we do that is we work with the regulators of each industry. So if there's a medical device, if there's a mask, a surgical mask, we'll insist on seeing the SAPRA license. So it depends on how the industry is regulated. That determines the type of quality confirmation, certification, verification that we ask for when we vet companies before they become members. We also check to see environmental standards. Are they looking after the environment when they do business? So we make sure that they're not polluting, or we've had one case where there was illegal dumping happening in an area. A community was affected in terms of their health, so we had to let that member go until such a time that they comply. As far as I understand, they still not comply, so they're still not eligible to come back as a member. So we take that very seriously. And of course, fair labor practices. We are very adamant about that. We request an HR policy or a template of a contract of employment. If there's any question mark about how employees are treated or mistreated, and we need to do our due diligence, then we will most certainly go and inspect all of the premises. But generally speaking, as far as with COVID, it was difficult to get to each and every member every year. So we do make do with working with our stakeholders, such as SACTU, the South African Clothing Textile Workers Union, as well as other union, our labor force. They do know, they're on top of it. So we have stakeholders to double check that companies comply. So if a company complies to all 4 key criteria, they're then eligible to become a member. And not that I'm being cheeky, I just wanted to put the membership fee structure in. It's more affordable now than ever before. So we did revise the fee structure back in 2017. We have not increased it, nor do we think we'll be increasing anytime soon. COVID has really hit us very, very hard. So entry level, so it means your business is turning over 5 million rand or less. Your membership fee is 500 rand per annum, and then it will incrementally increase as your turnover increases. So eventually, as we walk the journey with you and you grow, you're turning over 100 million rand per annum, your membership fee will then be 100,000 rand. For those bigger tier companies, especially companies that have factories, they might not be brands that consumers know offhand. They might be contract manufacturers. So for those companies, they often on a payment plan with us. So we're very open to working with companies to make membership more affordable if cash flow is a problem, which very much it is. Now to the fun part. How do we let consumers know to do the right thing? So we are very excited. We are going to be launching our own e-commerce platform next year. So you will be able to buy all of our members' products via the Proudly SA website. But we are also contacting the bigger platforms, the more popular ones, such as Macro Marketplace and others. I won't mention them now because I don't want to spoil the announcements later on. But we are partnering them to ask them to make it lucrative for our members to be on their platform. So make a special deal. So we're negotiating in the background how member companies can be on the very popular platforms, but also for member companies' logos to be present on the actual products, because that will then allow consumers to identify which products they are, and it will really just galvanize everybody to do the right thing. So lots of announcements coming in this space. In the past, we participated in the Dubai 2020 platform, and how we did that was through a virtual expo. So we took all of our members who wanted to go to Dubai virtually with us through this expo, and we did have a number of individuals buying from all over the world our members' products, and we also had a partner at that time whereby these orders could be facilitated and shipped over. So we have that capability. So we look forward to being part of virtual trade shows in the future. And that's, we are keeping on top of technology, making sure that we are everywhere we can be for our member companies. Consumer education pre-COVID, and we're quite excited to also start this again. More activations. So where you'll find companies, or not companies, where you find consumers visiting malls, we'll be there. Festival activation. So we were part of the Delicious Festival. We took our members there free of charge. They didn't have to pay a thing. We bought their space for them, and they could sell to in excess of 40,000 festival goers over the weekend. We also participate in online competitions, consumer advertising. I'll showcase some of that to you in a bit. University activations. So we're very passionate about the youth. They really are our future because they need to understand the importance of buying local. We also do consumer expos, labor mobilization. So I maybe neglected to let you know we on our board, we do have all the constituencies of NEDLAC. So labor is on our board. So they also assist us to drive labor mobilization. And where we're asking the shop stewards as well as the employees to ask their employees to buy local, and also if they have uniforms, etc., to buy locally made uniforms. And sports events, there's no such time. And I'm a cultural girl at school. I was always playing the music and doing the doing the speeches, etc. I never did sports, but I know. We have great support in the majority of South Africans. That's how we come together, is through sports. And I cannot deny that. And that's a captive audience, if I can use that word, in terms of sports events. So if we can get them all together, we are working with various, with the sports bodies to make sure the buy local message gets out there when there is a match of some sort. We also do sector-specific consumer education campaigns. So as CTFL's the clothing, textile, footwear, and leather sector, we do these campaigns with our member companies. They're really on social media, and we also ask our members to retweet, etc. We also do some work in poultry. So I know Jeremy, you said it's more than just buying the turkey, and for us it's buying the poultry locally. So can't imagine a festive period without a locally sourced chicken. So we have also these different campaigns in place to make the consumer understand why it's important to buy locally produced poultry, and also the quality of locally produced poultry. I know it's quite a contentious issue, but we know locally produced poultry is safe for human consumption. It hasn't been frozen, thawed, and refrozen again. So we also do that type of education with our member companies, as well as the association, South African Poultry Association. They're really very knowledgeable in this space. So we also rely on those associations to help us in our initiatives. The hospitality sector, we did this campaign in 2020. It is something close to our hearts because people do get together through food, especially our nation. And it also crosses all cultures and all cultures, and that's how we get together. So food is very important in terms of where it's sourced, how it's sourced, is it locally sourced, and we do work with the restaurant industry as well. And then festive season campaigns. So that's just to give you an idea what a festive season e-card looks like. Of course, there's more spend. So there is the back to school campaign, and then Black Friday is coming up. Of course, we're all looking for those specials. We're asking consumers to source locally made products when they do spend their money on Black Friday deals. And here are just some other elements in terms of previous campaigns we did around the festive season. Buy local chicken to create jobs. That's the big message, as well as highlighting which companies are local companies, and these are our members, so we can vouch for quality, local content, environmental standards, and fair labor practices. This is a campaign we did with one of our members. We love local, and that was with Mr. Price. So of course we have our member companies, and we utilize them to help us to drive the message. They often have a bigger marketing budget, and not often, most times, especially the bigger companies. But we ask them just to assist us with our messaging, and they do come to the party every single time. Here's Sheet Street, also utilizing the logo very widely, and then other companies just to showcase how they do it. You'll see the proudly South African logo in Mr. Price, etc., Edgar's and Jet. And here are some more examples for Sheeny at Home, Edgar's. Some more examples. So just to encourage when you do have that spend and you can make that decision, do the right thing. Back to school is a big spend. We do have these campaigns every single year. And the shoes that you buy for your children, the uniforms, school uniforms, we appeal to schools to really come up with a uniform whereby it's not a complicated thing that it's all pertaining to one company making it. Make it more accessible, and just have certain items that are identifiers for schools. So we even went there this year. So we're asking school shoes, stationery, furniture, even desks, etc. Buy local when you do buy for your children. Just some e-cards in that space also. And I'm going to get to the video soon. This is one of the festive season videos that we put out. I'm going to play it for you. This is the messaging we put out there to say, Mzansi, are you buying local? And we highlighted certain brands to make it easy for the consumer to find our members' products. And here's our next one. This one is specifically for festive season that we put out last year.
Living lekker locally. We're local. It is a choice. Buy local to create jobs.
So we also, in the run-up to the festive season, we're quite very excited. It's the second local fashion police. We're asking South Africans to enter this competition. We have, I think it's 4 designers that will be judging what the public is showcasing. So you take a photo of your outfit and they judge, and then there will be competition winners. And we are, Proudly South African, will sponsor outfits from those designers for them then to showcase at a fashion show. So after local fashion police, we then head into Black Friday, and then it's festive season. Then it is back to school. So it's a long, there are a lot of activations and exciting programs coming up in this period. I want to leave you with our Game Time, it's Game Time Mzansi ad. It's something very special and close to our hearts. It was 2020. We were so stressed out. Everybody, all South Africans were stressed out, and it was the South African brands that kept us alive. And I think since that happened, South Africans understand the importance of buying local. Government also supports localization widely. The private sector also. You'll see a lot more focus when you go on the online e-commerce sites. There's talks about heritage and local brands. So we're really in a very good space now to really drive that message. But 2020 was really a heartache year. It was the start of almost 3 years of just uncertainty. And South African brands kept us alive. And we thought this is a good time to say it's now or never. It's halftime. Pull up your socks, South Africa. Do the right thing, buy local. And Dr. John Carney supported us, and he acted as our president. He's got a very he's a most respectful South African. So we're so thrilled that he came on board to help us in that plight. And we asked, make buying local a lifestyle choice, just as the previous video highlighted to you. So that was the first video of its kind. We will be filming now another ad. We're very excited. So it will also then just expand on that messaging about making your buy local choice a lifestyle choice. But also then it will also talk about the young ones coming on board. So it's really a 360 experience for us. So I look forward to playing this ad to you. And then that's it from my side.
The second half is about to begin. We need to change the scoreboard. It's time.
I see it stopped.
Time for all of us to pause and rethink the game plan in order to save the future. I call on all of us to be game changers, because greatness isn't reserved only for some people. By buying local, we're choosing to create jobs and sustain the ones we have. Time and time again, South Africans have taken destiny into their own hands, creating products that the rest of the world wanted to buy. See, the world remembers about us what we sometimes forget, but it's time for change. Let's all buy local. It's game time. Mzansi.
Local is lekker.
Your everyday decisions shape our future.
There we go. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Janine, thank you so much indeed. Such a powerful and impactful piece of work. I remember it well. I was there at the launch, and I certainly know it did its job. Just a couple of points from your presentation. The one is I'm absolutely delighted that you are going this e-commerce platform route. It's important, and I know that there'll be a regular flow of information coming out as far as that's concerned, because that is so absolutely important. And let's not forget, buying local, it's about job creation. It's about pride in ourselves, in the work that we do, and the country itself. It's about growing the economy, as you've mentioned. And let us not forget, it's also about exemplary quality. But it segues nicely into our discussion now, because the one pointer, Janine, that you did make was about accessibility. And here's a little anecdote for you. I came across a T-shirt locally made in Cape Town a couple of weeks ago. I was desperate to get my hands on this T-shirt. Don't need to name the brand, don't need to name the company. But the reality is, as hard as I tried, I knew the name of the organization, but as hard as I tried to find that particular brand, I was unsuccessful. I eventually got the T-shirt. I'm very happy about it, but accessibility is critical. And that is one of the things that we're going to talk about with our panel members about the optimization of social media, of websites, of marketing. It's all very well to have the product, isn't it? But if you're not getting out to market and telling people about it, you're not going to sell it. And that kind of defeats the whole object. So Janine van Straten, thank you very much indeed. Executive Strategy Stakeholder Relations at Legal at Proudly South African. I'm going to introduce our panel to you now. And we've got three rock stars for you. The first one is Dumi Mahlangu, founder and managing director of Kepa Streetwear, along with Noni Ditsejo, founder of the Vutomi Group, and also Pelisa Matlolo, group category manager for food at the SPA organization. I'm going to have a conversation with all three of them, and then we'll open it up and we'll exchange some ideas. And then as we come to the end of the webinar, I will introduce you to Lee Tobin, founder of Alphabet Social, along with Liz Letswalo, founder of Masodi Organics. So we've got a lot to talk about as far as local is concerned. Dumi Mahlangu, I can see your picture, and I'm now going to ask you to join the conversation. A very warm welcome to the webinar. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hi, Jeremy. Very well, thank you. How are you?
I wish I was as well dressed as you were, man. I've just got a locally made old Oxford cloth shirt. You look so smart. Dumi, before we talk about your marketing strategy and particularly why it's important to optimize the website, let's hear a little bit about your journey. Tell us about the brand, where it started, what the aspiration is, and where you find yourself right now.
So we started 5 years ago. We started in a room in my house. And basically, I started while I was at work. I was working for a corporate, and I found myself very attracted to print, African print. So I've always been very drawn to African print type clothing. But it was very formal, it was very old, it wasn't modern, it wasn't contemporary. So it didn't appeal to me at that time. So I started selling these jackets while I was at work. It was a side hustle. And I saw that people gravitated to them. And I got more orders and more orders and more orders. So what I then did was I realized that juggling the two is very difficult. So I worked from 8 to 6, and from 9 to 10 in the evening, from 9 to 2 o'clock up to 3 o'clock, I would teach myself how to code. I took a course on social media marketing. So I did that for like 6 months, teaching myself how to code, how to build online platforms, how to optimize platforms and social media marketing and digital marketing. And then built the site, launched it. And then after launching, I realized that I'm getting a lot of traction, but in South Africa, the uptake with online purchasing is very slow. So we needed to prove concept, and we also needed to gel with our customers, interact with them. So we did a lot of pop-ups, a lot of flea markets, met with our customers, built the rapport, built the reputation. And from there, we slowly grew and grew and grew to such a time where I couldn't keep up anymore. I resigned 2018. And then I've been working full-time on the business. So now we are in a 240 square meter property. We manufacture everything in-house. We've got machinery, and we've got our shop downstairs, our factory store, which we're currently renovating. And yeah, that's where we are at the moment.
How did you know when the time was right to turn from a side hustle into a full-time business? Was there a fulcrum point when you said, now's the time to go for it?
Yeah, it was. So when our revenue started to pick up, and I saw that I couldn't keep up with the flow of orders that were coming in while I was at work, because some customers are very particular with their product, and there's issues. So one needs to be very hands-on. And my mentor once told me that you need to decide if you're going to run this as a business or run this as a hobby. So you need to be full in. So it cannot be 50%, 50%. So if you want to run a business and you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to have skin in the game, And that's when I realized it. I saw that, we're making good revenue, and I'm able to draw a small salary from it. Obviously, I wasn't able to pay myself what corporate was paying me, but that's when I decided, what sacrifices can I make? What expenses can I not live without, which the side hustle can cover? So there was a lot of trimming of my expenses. There was a lot of sacrifices in terms of my lifestyle that I had to make just to accommodate the dream.
And I'm assuming that you still work probably until 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's what entrepreneurs have got to do, right?
I do. I still work until late, but I work until late because I want to this time, because it's a passion, because I see the effort that I put in and the results that I get out. It's never immediate. What you put in, it's what you get out. So it's, the effort reciprocates, as well as it's the patience that one has, on the amount of effort that you put into the business is very key. Otherwise, if you're going to rush it, you're never really going to enjoy the journey.
It's about passion. It's about your life and livelihood, but it's also, Dumi, about your legacy as well. I'm going to get back to the website and the social media marketing side of it, but let me draw into the conversation now. Noni Ditsejo, founder of the Vutomi Group. Noni, are you with us? I'm not seeing you on my screen. There you are. Hello, how are you doing this afternoon? And I'm going to ask you that famous thing that all facilitators say to people in a webinar: can you go off mute, please? There we go. Can we hear you? Can we hear you?
That.
Hi, Noni, how are you? There, we can hear you. Fantastic. I'm not hearing you 100% clearly. I'll put my first question to you. If we're not hearing you correctly, I'm going to move on to Pelisa. But Noni, just the same question that I put to Dumi, just a little bit about the story behind the group. What was the start? What's the genesis?
Okay. Firstly, thanks for the opportunity. Vutomi Group, it's the holding company, and it does quite several things. And it started off as my day job, me doing property development, specifically with social housing. And 2019, my late husband and I thought, we needed to learn something together. And we thought we're going to learn how to make gin. And we went to Cape Town and for a week to a distillery called New Harbour. That day we learned, and we came back and we thought, why not try it out? And fast forward, end of 2019, we registered the company. We did our first 2 gins, which were a moringa gin and a coffee gin. And we went with the DTI to Russia, and they tested our product, and they thought, no, it was too weak for them. It wasn't keeping them warm enough. And fast forward, we did that whole process. Then we got barcoding. We got registered with Proudly SA, and that's why I'm here today. Thanks again. And we did that whole product. We took it to Cape Town, and came 2020. Everything went on a standstill, but we carried on. We tried to increase and make people aware of our products. We also then did a classic gin, and then we entered a competition, and lo and behold, we won a medal. And we thought, oh, okay, then this must be correct. And then it stopped being a side hustle. Then it developed into a business, and here we are today. Yeah, and we've moved slowly, and I guess COVID has also demonstrated to us that we actually don't have time, and we think we can have side hustles and something there, but we don't have the time. And that's when I started thinking that I need to use the 4-year business plan, because it's not going according to plan. Then it was, and obviously people were not consuming our products. Then we developed GNT tea, which is just botanicals in a tea bag. You put them in a cup, put in hot water, you let it steep a bit, and then you drink it hot or cold. So if you drink halfway, you can take out the tea bag, put in the ice cubes, and then put a classic gin in it. And voila.
Yeah. Nani, I'm wondering to myself, and I know one of the topics that we'll get to with you in just a moment is the importance of holiday promotions and cross promotion. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But what I'm wondering to myself is, over the past 5 years or so, what is it with gin, man? Why has it become so popular in this country? What is it?
Fine. What is it with anything?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I wanted the stigma of housewives drinking gin to come off, because really it wasn't a housewives drink anymore. And I think it's a fun drink, is where you can express yourself and determine how you want to eventually have the end product, because you can flavor it. It's a fun drink. I think it's people are just tired, and people just want to have fun, and people are tired of the same old. And I know before I started making gin, I used to drink a lot of red wine, and then towards 2019, I couldn't keep it down, and I thought maybe it's the sides, and then I stopped it, and then I wanted something new, which was the gin. And I found that gin, you can play around with it. There's a bit of a child in every adult. We want to play.
Yeah. It's just, it astonishes me at how it has gathered so much traction over the past couple of years. Nani, don't go away. We're going to get back to you in just a moment. But the third member of my panel this afternoon is Pelisa Macholo, who's the Group Category Manager for Food at the Giant Spa Group. Pelisa, good afternoon to you. If I can ask you to put your camera on, there you go. I'm not going to ask you about the history of the Spa Group, because you probably weren't around when it started. But what I am going to ask you, it's all very well, isn't it, to have a product, whether it be, and particularly, whether it be an alcohol product, a food product, whatever the case is. The challenge for local manufacturers is to find that shelf space, to make sure that you actually get your product into the whole supply chain. What advice do you have then for people who are watching this afternoon? What's the approach? What's the strategy?
Good afternoon, Jeremy, and the rest of the panelists and audience online. And thank you for not asking me that question, because that definitely wasn't around. It was around 32, and even my grandfather was probably not around. Yeah, you ask a very important question. I think having listened to what Janine was saying earlier on around the importance of actually having, campaigns like this actually functioning, where we stop talking about it and actually putting some action behind it. The local trade, and I'm going to be talking purely from a food point of view, because that's what I deal with.
Right.
The local trade, in terms of call it retail, is quite dominated by about 4 or 5 big players, and with us being one of them. And really, from a manufacturing point of view, you're sitting with multinational, sometimes global organizations, for example, the likes of PepsiCo and Coca-Cola, who really dominate the shelf space, and to a point you've raised. So it makes it really difficult for us to actually find space for local product. But I think to answer the question, I've kind of been in some of these platforms in the past, and we've engaged with some of the up and coming manufacturers, small manufacturers. One of the key challenges that we've seen and we've faced over the last couple of I'd call it years is where the guys are actually ready, they can produce, but where they would normally fall short would be on meeting the compliance requirements. And really that's where SPAR as a business, we've developed this platform where we invite small and micro businesses to actually sign up into this platform, and we get them into actually being compliant, right? So we take you through a process, a roadmap in terms of what you need. We do an evaluation in terms of where we are or where you are, provide you with information just to give you further understanding of what some of the certification requirements are. We also provide a marketplace for you in terms of being able to either deal directly with our retailers or deal with us from the different divisions of central office. So the advice that I would take or I'd give is actually to the audience online, look at where your business is at the moment. There's various retail outlets out there, and I'm sure if we want to address the issue of unemployment and inequality, it's not just about SPAR, right? So we got competitors who offer the same kind of environment. So I'd say from a food point of view, I think getting your compliance right, food safety is a big thing. I mean, you'd remember in the last couple of years, we had the issue of listeriosis and those kind of things. So a big business tends to be quite skeptical of, supporting a business that hasn't really gone through the process of food safety compliance and have gotten their certification in order. For me, I think from a food point of view, that's the first kind of direction that I'd provide. And once you've kind of gotten that hurdle, then you can obviously talk to the likes of myself. I've got my counterparts as well within the group. What we try and do is look at your proposition in terms of a business, products you're selling, is there a need for it in the market? Do we see an opportunity? And then through those engagements, we then structure some form of a solution, whether it is starting small within the individual retailers, or actually going for a big bang where you actually get into a region of the 6 different divisions that we operate across. And that's really dependent, obviously, the opportunity we see and the prospects of the business. But from a commercial and a business point of view, we try and make that viable for you in a number of ways. Not only do we provide the support, but also commercially we make it viable in the sense that we could negotiate or favorable terms, for example, where the standard settlement terms may be 25 to 30 days, sometimes goes up to 90 days. We try and shorten that so we get your cash flow back into your business so that you can reinvest it and obviously grow your business. So shelf space is a tricky discussion. So we do manage that within our business. We try and allocate space to for new products and local products. And again, it is through these partnerships that we try and really leverage the Proudly South African movement to really bring it back into the food space as well. I think we've seen with Janine how prominent it has been in the clothing industry and all of that. I really want to bring it back into your food, so you know where your food is coming from, where it's manufactured from. Yeah.
I'm so gratified that you brought the cash flow dynamic into this conversation, because so many smaller manufacturers, entrepreneurial manufacturers, really find that very, very difficult. And the fact that you've recognized that as a big organization, as a big multinational, as a big listed company, and you're actually dealing with that is really something to be lauded. Please, I want to ask you 2 questions. One is about consumer appetite for locally made goods, but also I want you to reflect on this, the need, or what sort of needs analysis people need to do in order to understand the market before they come knocking on SPAR's door. So think about those 2 things, because at this point I want to go back to Dumi now. Dumi, I want to bring you in now. You've given us the Chepper Streetwear journey. It is, like so many entrepreneurial stories, it's inspirational, and we have nothing but respect for the person who does the corporate job until 6 o'clock in the evening, probably sits down, has a quick bowl of soup or something that he bought at SPAR, and then moves on and then starts the other job. It beggars belief. The energy that you must need to do something like that is absolutely astonishing. Having said that, you took us to the point where we understand that you moved it from a side hustle into a mainstream business. You absorbed the risk. You understood what you had to do. It becomes a full-time job for you. The next thing to do, and it's to Janine's point that she made a little bit earlier, is about accessibility. It's making sure the market actually knows about you. How did you do that, either from a traditional marketing perspective or in terms of how you optimized your website? What experiences can you share with us in that respect?
So I used digital marketing. So I used social media marketing on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads. So those are the platforms that I used.
How did you do it? What was the strategy behind it? What weighting did you give to one or the other? How did you design the messaging?
So look, there wasn't really much of a reference point to start from. So I needed to be creative in terms of my strategy. But what I did do is I looked at what current brands are doing, bigger brands, and then adopted it into my strategy. But also take into consideration that big brands don't target the same people I would target. And if they do target them, the marketing mix or the message would be totally different from, and my message needs to be specific in terms of the product that I serve. So then I also needed to look at who are my potential customers. You know, what type of people are they? How old are they? Where do they spend their money, and so forth. So with digital marketing, the power of AI as well as technology, it's quite broad because you can be able to generate a lot of information through cookies, data, through pixels. And pixels is basically a API that you have on your platform that literally tracks movement, transactions, interactions with products, checkouts, etc. So every movement you would make on our site, we'd be able to kind of track and see what you've done. We're also able to kind of look at consumer behavior in the market and where it's heading. We're able to kind of build a customer avatar to see who purchases from us, where else do they purchase. And then we take that data and then we create lookalike audiences and custom audiences so that we can be able to increase reach. So if we find 5 people who have purchased from us, we then go back to the drawing board. We go back to the platform that we use to create our ads. And then we literally code the system to tell it that find us people who look like five of our purchasers. And then from there on, you're able to segment your customer base. And you segment your customer base in such a way that you segment it to high value customers, middle value customers, low value customers. And then you're able to then expand the reach as you go along. And as your purchases increase, you're able to increase your reach. And then you also look at other means and ways of generating leads or customers. And that's your email marketing campaigns, which we run on our platforms, and affiliates. You know, affiliates are very important. I mean, I'm from an insurance background, and I understand how important it is to affiliate yourself with the right brands and partners, but also how important referrals are, as well as customer lifetime value. Because if you're able to satisfy your customers' needs, give them great customer service, give them a great product, the likelihood of them coming back is very, very high. So that is the core of our business, to make sure that we make our customers happy. And if they're not happy, we try and remedy that so that we can keep the relationship going on.
Tumi, I just want to thank you for a mini masterclass in data marketing, because you've touched every single critical point as far as this is concerned. The problem that so many people have when they embark on a digital marketing journey is the overflow of data, because the data never stops. You're always getting the data. It's a question of understanding the data, interpreting it, and then actioning the data that you've got while more data is coming through the pipeline. You've got to be very adept at this. You've got to understand it, and you're always on 24 hours a day, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's times when we see that a campaign is not working very well. I mean, the team and I, we're very, how can I say, we're very pedantic about the stats. We're very pedantic about the numbers and what the data say. So, I mean, I'd get an SMS to say, look, we've got a percentage drop in this campaign. What do we do in the next couple of days? Because there's also a time period that you need to look at the data. We can't look at it from arbitrarily. We need to look at it from a holistic point of view, and also give campaigns time to actually prove themselves that they're worthwhile keeping. So we do work odd hours, especially the marketing team, because there's various elements that can impact the success of your campaign and reaching customers. It can be the creative, it can be the audience you're using, it can even be the amount that you're spending on a campaign. It might be too low or it might be too high, you know. So there needs to be a structural balance between the two. And there also needs to be a flow in terms of the funnel, because when it comes to digital marketing, you need to have a strategy for all platforms. That is Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube.
It's not one size
Google.
fits all, is it?
It's not a one size fits all. Each platform is very different. And you need to understand the matrix and how the cohesion comes together so you can maximize on your opportunity.
Dumi, I want to come back to you in just a moment, and I want to talk to you about the construct and the tonality of your messaging, and particularly that one size fits all debate. So reflect on that as I bring Noni Ditsecho back into the conversation, founder of the Vutomi Group. Noni, back to you.
Yes.
And almost lunchtime, I think. So we can have a gin and tonic if you want while we're speaking. Maybe after the webinar. But I want to ask you this question. You spoke to me about the South African summer. You spoke to me about seasonal consumption of product, which I absolutely think is more applicable to the liquor industry than anything else. How do you ramp up sales and marketing efforts seasonally? What is your approach?
Well, I think we've always got to stay innovative, and we've always got to be out there and trying to understand what the public wants or the consumers want. And what I did end of last year towards summer, I came up with 3 different flavors, which was a pink gin, and it's a pomegranate gin, and then I came up with a lychee gin and a passion fruit gin. Because I realized that a lot of ladies loved the pink gin. They loved the idea of this pink gin. So, and then I thought, how about adding a flavor to it so that it's not just an African dry, but pink. There must be a flavor to it. And that's how I added the pomegranate. So I'm not good at the marketing thing. I'm not good at, but I think most importantly is finding out what people like. So I've done quite a few researches trying to ask people, and then I've done a lot of tastings, trying to get people to taste and confirm if that is the right taste that they want. And thereafter, I figure out then if this is what people are going for and they're warming up to the type of flavor, then it means it is the right flavor, and it means it is the right choice that I'm making. But it's very difficult. South Africans are very brand loyal. It's difficult to get them off different brands. But I think when you come up with different from what's on the shelf, they're willing to experiment and they're willing to try out. It's just that it takes long.
It's also a process, I imagine, of trial and error. So you talk to me, you've just used the phrase warming up to the right flavor. So we're prepared to experiment, particularly if it's a tasting and we've been invited, and we're prepared to give the brand a go. But how do you know when you've got them, when the innovation that you've spent money on is now starting to work, that you can take the idea and you can move it beyond test phase into something more meaningful? What's your strategic process?
I think the best people to start experimenting with is immediate friends and family. And you'll get, it's a gut feel. They're not just saying it tastes nice to make you feel happy. You will pick it up, whether it's just a happy, whether they're just trying to get rid of you or whether they genuinely enjoy the taste. And as that goes and graduates from that level to the next level, then eventually you figure out that this is what people want, because then they'll start asking for it. Then they'll start saying, please, can we buy more of that flavor? Then automatically you know that this is what people want. It needs to generate to sales. Can you hear me? I think something's going on there. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, Nani, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I was getting worried that I'm
Hello.
talking to.
I think Jeremy's screen is frozen.
Yeah.
We'll contact him in the meantime.
I hope he heard what I had to say.
See, I think he might have left the webinar and then he'll come back. So if we can just give it a moment. Oh, sure. If you want to expand, by all means, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, Janine, that you mentioned that online platform that you guys are coming up with. It's very important because to try and get onto these shelves is such a nightmare. They want to know how many extra teeth your great grandmother had. It's a nightmare. And I've done the product.
Yes.
You don't even know how many teeth you have, and they want to know your great grandmother's teeth. But the world is moving towards online, and yes, I have done the online thing, but we need more of that online, because to try and be on people's shelves is a mission. They want everything that you don't have, and eventually I did get everything that they wanted, but because it's such a draining process and it's such a long walk to freedom, it's also a put off, because by the time you've done all of that, you're like, do you really want to be on their shelves? Do you? You know?
Well, precisely. Janine, thank you very much for stepping in, by the way. I'm going to use one word, ESCOM, okay? But I think that I think things have changed. I'm hoping I'm back in the webinar, and I do apologize for that, but I think South Africans have become particularly what's the word I'm looking for? They've become particularly forgiving when it comes to technological challenges that we're having. Nani, hold that thought for the moment, because I want to come back to Palisa, if I can, from the SPA group. Palisa, before I left the webinar and then rejoined, I was going to we were going to talk a little bit about consumer respect for South African brands, and also understanding and scoping that market. Let's start with the easy one first. Is it your belief that there is a little bit more acknowledgement and a propensity to engage with South African products than perhaps previously, and maybe due to efforts like Proudly South African?
Thanks, Jeremy. So that's an interesting question, and thank you for that question. And as you asked me earlier about that question, I was thinking, if I'm a consumer and I'm walking down a shelf, what tells me that a product is South African? I think at the moment, the only thing you can really do is read the back of pack, that country of origin at the back of pack. And not all of us actually have time to do all of that. And I think it's to initiatives like we have, and Janine spoke about it, about how do we make those products visible. We spoke about earlier on about thinking global, but acting local. So that could be in the form of, the flavors that you have. It could be in the form of capturing some essence of, we've got quite a broad heritage in South Africa, bringing that essence into your product. And I really think that that's really what we need to look at. Do consumers have appetite for it? I think they certainly do. We've definitely seen it. It is quite easy to see it in the liquor space. I mean, you see a lot of these international brands in liquor actually partnering with local celebrities and co-branding and those kind of things. And you quickly see the uptake on that. I think where we may have been a bit slow, and you see it in fashion as well, actually. I think where we're relatively slow is maybe on the food side of things, where it's actually difficult to differentiate between local products and imported products. And for a consumer who is already running out of time, it's a mom going into a shop to pick up a product and quickly out. They don't have time to try and sift, which bag of maize is local, which bag of sugar is local. So how do we bring that? How do we make that quite accessible to them? And again, it doesn't help when we put, what we call DOB or own brands, like a Spar brands or Pick n Pay no name on the product, because by default we're localizing it, but where it actually originates from and where it's manufactured from is not clearly visible. So I think there's a lot of education we need to do. There's a lot of campaigns we need to do. So, for example, do we then work with a local manufacturer and take a part of the shelf and segment it and call it Love Local? Or do we, I remember in my previous life, we'd actually take all of the local brands, actually some of the up and coming local brands, instead of putting them in the run where they pretty much lost with everything else, we'd put them on a gondola and run a specific campaign, whether it's geared towards the heritage, where we bring local brands and we communicate that to the consumer, that these are local products. Yeah.
I've got two questions that I'd like to follow up with on that. When it comes to embracing locally made goods, people these days are prepared to experiment, as we've heard from Noni, but you've also got it's that fine balance between price on the one hand and pride on the other. And often it's price that does win. That's true, isn't it?
Most definitely, Mike. Jeremy, especially on the back of where we are from an economic point of view. I mean, that wallet is just getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. So, again, you look at it from a local manufacturing point of view, and you realize that until you actually get the critical mass and the scale where you generate efficiencies to bring your price down, you're always going to go in high. And then obviously, as you expand, and you can actually realize some of the efficiencies. It is a challenge. We see it, and again, you talk about it. I mean, on the back of COVID-19, majority of the people were sitting on 350 allowances, and with that 350, you really need to feed yourself. You're unemployed. Are you going to spend more on a local product just because of pride, or at that point your need is to satisfy the hunger to feed your child? So it is a bit of a difficult one, but I think we also need to play a role, and to the point I raised earlier, in terms of making it viable, at least putting measures in place to try and make it viable for our manufacturers. And to go back to Noni's point, the hoops that you need to jump, and it's expensive hoops. I can really relate to that. To get an audit done on your facility, to get your food safety certification is quite difficult, and hence from a SPAR point of view, as I said earlier, we came up with a SPAR development program, which you can actually Google it. I mean, you can Google search it. It's called SPAR Supplier Development Program. It's free to sign up to this platform. We call it Siakula Gunye, and it's really to help our small businesses grow. The point there is to kind of make those hurdles a lot more easy. You're guided, you're supported through the whole process. And again, where you can avoid having to pay those huge upfront costs to get certification and all of that. Because remember, businesses would have to amortize that over a short period of time. You're uncertain whether there's going to be success in the market, but already first thing you need to do is pay 100,000 for an audit. It becomes challenging. But yeah, to the point, the consumer is stretched, and I think local manufacturers need to appreciate that. there is an element of, from a South African mindset that, to get there quickly is better. So, where we then tend to take extra margins. You need to understand that sometimes, especially with food, you can't have for example, a 40 or 50% margin. It's not a quick scheme. It takes a long time to actually build your brand over time. And it is a short-term investment for a long-term benefit. Yeah.
The Nopote.
Hello, everybody. I wonder perhaps Jeremy's load shedding is freezing. It's freezing his screen again. I wonder if Jeremy can hear me. Maybe just exit and come back in. Oh, that you there? Thanks, Jeremy. Sorry, we lost you for a bit.
It's and Janine, thank you very much for coming to my rescue. It's a situation completely beyond my control. But let's go, Pelisa. I'm going to come back to you. Are you hearing me, Pelisa? Is that good? Can you give me a thumbs up? That's all good. Fantastic. So Kolani asked an interesting question about clustering South African goods together. My question to you was, how important is a kind of South African packaging approach important to all of this? Does that count in big retail?
Yes, it is very important, Jeremy. I think I spoke about it earlier that, I can mention brands. I mean, it's not a big deal, but how do you differentiate when you're looking at a biscuit? How do you know an Oreo biscuit is made locally or imported? You'll actually know once you've read the back of pack. So how do we make it easier for consumers to understand local products? And it is already cluttered shelf space to the point today. So to the point where packaging plays a very good role, I actually noted it down as one of the areas where we could actually do a better job in driving that. We did a campaign, I think, a couple of years ago where we actually we encourage our manufacturers to put a flag into the product. And you'll see with some of our competitors in their cheese segments, where they'd actually talk about the country of origin, they'll put a flag next to it. And as a consumer, it makes it a lot easier for you to identify with the product. So packaging is a critical one. We spoke about it. Think global, act local. So speak to your immediate consumer. Obviously, when you expand beyond our borders, then you need to be cognizant of what that consumer is going to be looking for. But yes, packaging will play a huge role, and smart packaging, right? Using local cues. We've got national flowers in the Protea. We've got the national flag. We've got 11 official languages. How do you incorporate that in? We see it a lot in advertising. I think we see it a lot. Janine spoke about it as well in terms of the language you use to try and localize it, obviously to appeal to the consumer. Yeah.
Noni, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment, and I'm going to ask you for some thoughts on packaging. But before we do that, let me go back to Dumi Mahlangu, founder, managing director of Kepa Streetwear. Dumi, I asked you when we last spoke for you to reflect on the importance of tone of messaging. We discussed in some detail the whole notion of the importance of data, the interpretation of data, but when you were actually crafting the messaging that went out across those different platforms, how did you deal with that? What was your approach?
Jeremy, that question's for me. I just want to confirm. I had a wobble with my internet.
Not a problem. That question is directed to Janina Dumi, if you're still with us.
Fantastic. Okay. Hi, Dumi.
Hi.
I like the expression wobble with internet. We're all having that today, but it is what it is. You got the question about tonality of messaging, yeah?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Go ahead.
So I think what I used was I used a very how can I put it? Wasn't too direct, but it was basically introducing the importance of why it's important to buy from us, and what what you wear says about you and what wearing our stuff will make you feel like. So we used a very soft yet inviting kind of way of spreading or getting our message across. It wasn't too sales pitchy, because in our different funnels, there's different messages that we put out. The first one would be to introduce who we are and what we do. The second one would be to, it would be to make sure that you are reintroduced to the brand, but also acknowledge that you have engaged with us before. So now this is where we kind of introduce you to more of our products. And the third one would be where we're actually, now it is that pitch where we nudge you to make your purchase. Because in terms of the funnel, it's created for a different audience in each phase. So we needed to make sure that we get that right. But when we started, I mean, I didn't know anything about funnels. I didn't know about, I didn't know much about what I should be saying on ads, how I should write an ad, you know. So I found that it's okay not to know. It's okay to make mistakes. You know, it's supposed to happen. It must happen. You have to fail, you know, at your messaging. You have to fail at crafting your strategy. Otherwise, you know, you won't get it right the first time. And I heard Noni saying that it took time, you know, and for me also it took a lot of time. In fact, we actually got our funnel right only this year, 5 years later. We got it right. And that's because we were crafting and changing, until we actually fulfilled the entire marketing funnel. Because we've used so many strategies before. Yes, they worked, they helped us grow, but now we've actually found one which we're sticking to that's actually just, you know, just taking us further.
And in my career, I have interviewed so many entrepreneurs, and they get to the point, Dumi, where you find yourselves now. The only bad news I've got for you is that the moment you think that marketing funnel is right, the market dynamic changes, and you're going to have to start working on that funnel again.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the reality of business, isn't
it? Definitely. I mean, sure. I can tell you about COVID. COVID just exposed so many weaknesses in our efficiencies in our marketing. And that's when we're like, okay, what do we do now? And we pivoted. We just had to pivot and see what is working, what's not working. Yeah. What is it we haven't looked into that we have to look into now? And we found that we have over 6,000 people on our database that we're not emailing. And we're like, okay, let's email more.
Do me, if I had 10 Rand for every entrepreneur that used the word pivot, I would be a very, very rich man today. I really would. But that's the secret. That's the secret of business success. Noni, I want to come back to you. If you can switch your camera on again, come back into the conversation, please. We were reflecting with Polisa about the importance of placement of packaging. In terms of your product, what's your approach been? Because marketing anything is also about visual appeal. Share some thoughts with us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeremy. I'm happy that you mentioned packaging, and that Dumi was talking about how everything always ends up not being final. And we went through stages of trying to get the correct labeling, chopping and changing, and eventually we thought we got it right, and then we took it to DAF because they've got to approve your label. They approved it, and then we got the opportunity to go to Russia. And then when we got there, we realized, but this is not international markets. It's not up to, I mean, we want to be a global citizens, and the label was not saying global. So when we came back, we changed it again. And we thought, okay, let's have a basis of how we want this look and feel. Do we want an exclusive look? What type of look? Do we want a fun look, or do we want an African look? So eventually we had to fuse all those in one, and we concentrated on the 3 golds, yellow gold, rose gold, and white gold. And that's the 3 flavors the 3 variants of the gins. So our coffee gin is a rose gold feel, and the classic gin is a yellow gold, and the moringa gin is a white gold. So fast forward, after having done that, we had to go back again to DAF and make sure that they approved the label. So that whole process had to be started all over again, like he was saying, that we're forever starting all over again, because we wanted it to have a global feel and look, So then eventually we took it back to DAF and they approved it again, and they were like, but you've already been here, why are you? But we had to take it there, because otherwise then they can throw our stuff off the shelf if the label isn't approved. So packaging is important. It's key. We all eat with our eyes before we taste what's inside the bottle or inside the can or inside whatever. We eat with our eyes. So it is important that packaging to the eyes that are supposed to buy it. And the bottle.
That's
we started
really
off with
advice.
bottles that we were getting from Italy, and then came lockdown. We couldn't get the supply of the bottles. And then eventually we got something similar. We were able to get them from Cape Town. But everything just keeps changing. For our coffee, which we contract rose coffee beans, it also changed. It wasn't the same look as we did before. We changed it again. And eventually we got a look and feel that we wanted. So it's forever evolving, because we've got to move with the time. And what makes sense in 2019 might not make sense in 2023. And if I find myself that I'm changing again next year, so be it.
To all our audience members, I haven't forgotten the fact that we are focusing on festive season strategy. Nani, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought. I'll get back to you.
Can everybody hear Jeremy? Because I can't.
Folks, my internet connection is still with me. Are you hearing me?
Yes,
maybe you can help me.
Yes, Jeremy, we can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, Jenny, what I'm going to ask you to do in the meantime, I want to put one more question to Pelisa, but in the meantime, can I ask you to queue up our video, please? Lee Tobin, founder of Alphabet Social, as we look at social media strategy as we approach this festive season. But Pelisa, I want to come back to you very, very quickly. The topic of this webinar is about, are we ready for Christmas, for the festive season? Part of the approach, I would imagine, is to use product innovatively to give the store a unique festive season flair and then promote accordingly. What does a big retail chain like Spar do? How does your thinking change as we approach 87, 88 days to Christmas?
Thanks, Jeremy. We're actually counting it. I think it was today. I think it equates to about 8 Sundays before Christmas.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's relatively close. It is basically about what you've kind of shared, in the sense that we do look at it's called Christmas picking lines or Christmas ranges, where the one, obviously the forward share in terms of those products relative to whether it sits. So a product that would not necessarily trade throughout the year may get a lot of shelf space going into Christmas. I'll use an example for, one of them would be assorted biscuits. That those are for most people, those are products that are normally bought towards the end of the year, towards Christmas. Custard picks in Christmas, and a whole lot of other products for that matter. It would be so we basically look at what that range looks like and how we then can give it forward share in store. And it has to do with the dynamics of moving product around. Obviously, the stores get dressed up nicely by our marketing teams to obviously go to give it that Christmas feel. And the music changes, from the playlist as well as you walk into the store.
Yeah,
Jingle bells all day.
The music always changes. Please flip it for me if you don't mind. Yeah. In terms of suppliers into a big retail store who are making locally made products, how should their thinking change around about this time? Do they need a different mindset?
Yes, Jeremy, I'd recommend a couple of things. So, you will have your standard products, which would sell throughout the period. They may just peak in that period, but sometimes you may have Christmas-specific lines or Christmas-specific products. My recommendation would be that on your Christmas-specific product, go in early, right? So early depends on obviously your arrangement with the retailer or with the outlet. But go in early, make sure that there's sufficient stock on shelf and obviously in the holding zones, be it a warehouse or secondary storage facility. So make sure the displays are built big and bold before we get to, because if you think about it, people start shopping for Christmas on literally on starting from Black Friday. So Black Friday into the first week of December, the last little bit of purchase would be around 15th, 16th, when people get their bonuses. And for the lastminute.com, then it would be the 23rd and the 24th. So if you're looking at your Christmas specific range, have a plan in terms of how you're going to go in, but also understand that those products are unlikely to sell from the 26th onwards. Okay. So I'd say go in at full price, but have an exit plan, right? Because you don't want to be sitting with a Christmas product in January. It's just going to sit there and nobody's going to buy it. And that plan would be, you're going at a normal price for maybe the first few weeks of the festive season. Maybe closer towards Christmas, you run some promotional campaigns. In South Africa, what works is where you really do a combo, multi-buy. If you where you say buy two products for and save, or buy two products for price. Because you want that product to be out of the system as soon as possible. And have a clear markdown strategy with your retailer to say, look, from the 26th to the 27th of December, we're going to mark our products down by 25%, mark it down by 50%, and by January, you really don't want to have that stock on shelf. For your normal trading product, just make sure that you've got sufficient stock. Make sure that your partners or your retailers know exactly when you're going to close the facility. If you've got a plan to close facility, because most people tend to shut down, go home and have a bit of a holiday. Make sure that you communicate those plans clearly with your partners, but also make sure that you've got contingency plans. I don't have to tell you this, but every year we plan for Christmas, something goes wrong. It's either we overstocked or we're understocked. And the worst case scenario is where you're understocked and we're trying to replenish that stock and nobody's available, everybody's away. So I'd say keep your logistics teams as far as possible, closer to Christmas as you possibly can, so that you can actually replenish stock, and make sure that there is some form of contact, should there be a need to top up. But yeah, having that clear plan communicated upfront, have your closure periods communicated so that from a retail point of view, we know exactly when we're going to get our stock, we know exactly what we're going to do in case there's a shortage or we need to top up. Yeah.
That is such valuable market intelligence. And what I like particularly is about having that post Christmas sales strategy, because so many people ramp up to Christmas and then what happens after that? And all of a sudden there's that over inventorized stock, which you've got to deal with. To Noni and to Dumi, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment, because I want you to share some thoughts with us on how your supply, marketing, distribution strategy is now going to change in the 87 days that we've got until Christmas, how you're thinking differently. But in the meantime, if I could ask our production team to queue up Lee Tobin. Let me introduce you to Lee. She's the founder of Alphabet Social, and she has a very brief video presentation on the importance of social media strategy around about this time, and in many respects builds on what Dumi has been teaching us a little earlier. So I wonder at this point, if all systems are ready, if we can go with Lee, please.
Hello, it's Lee from Alphabet Social, and I'm excited to help you plan for the next 3 months when it comes to marketing your business online. We all know that the summer sales period is key for driving as many sales as we can for our business. People are on holidays, they're shopping for Christmas, and it's the time to make money in your business. So I want to remind you that there's only about 12 weeks left of the year. This year is flying. So now is the time to plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I'm going to help walk you through 5 key areas that I want you to focus on in order to maximize your sales through the social media platforms for the rest of the year. So first off, I want to remind you that it's important to be repeating your messaging online. If you just post once a week, or you talk about one product once, it's not enough. Your posts are only reaching about 10% of your followers. So you need to constantly be selling online, be creating content that your audience is going to engage with in order to build trust with your following so that they think about your brand first when it comes to buying and support your business. So remember, if you think that you are selling too much, you're probably still not selling enough. Social media selling requires repetition, and people need to hear about it multiple times before deciding to buy. And again, your posts only reach about 10% of your followers. So plan ahead. I want you to set out a 90-day sales goal. So if, for example, you say, I want to make 100,000 Rand over the next 3 months in sales, then you can break it down and say, well, that's 33 or 35,000 Rand a month. And it makes it a lot easier if you have an intention and you have a clear goal that you want to achieve, then you know what you are aiming for from a social media marketing perspective, and it makes your strategy that much stronger. So break it down, say, how much profit do I want to make in that period? How many sales do I need to make to achieve that profit? And then think about what your conversion rate is. So for example, if 1,000 people come to your site, and only 10 people buy a product, that means that you have a 1% conversion rate. So if you know that you want to make 10 sales, you know you need to get 10,000 people to your website in order to get those 10 sales. Now, the benchmark for online marketing is you want a conversion rate of between about 2 and 5%, higher, even better, but that is sort of an industry standard to give you an idea of what you should be aiming for. The second tip that I could give you is to invest in paid ads. It's going to help you get your results that much faster. So if you're not investing in Facebook or Instagram or TikTok advertising or whatever platform that you choose to use, then it's just going to take you a lot longer to achieve those results. Facebook paid ads can really accelerate your growth. And when I say Facebook ads, I mean the ads that are run through the business manager account, not boosting. There's so much more that you can achieve by running your ads through the Facebook business manager dashboard rather than just boosting a post. The third tip that I can give you is to up your email game. Email has a higher conversion rate than even social media marketing. And even though I'm focusing on social media here, I wanted to remind you that if you have an email list of customers, you should be emailing them frequently to keep your brand top of mind. So map out in this period how many emails you're going to be sending, then batch create your content. So sit down and create your emails, for the next month. So for example, if I know that in October I want to send 1 email a week, I'll set aside a morning and draft all my emails, design them so that they're all ready to go. I can just schedule them and I don't have to think about it again. Remember, when you're writing emails, you want to make sure that you've got a catchy headline or captions to make people want to open the email when they receive it in the inbox, because we're all receiving so many emails every day. So you want to make it enticing that they open it and read it. And then remember to always include a call to action. What are you asking your followers or your people or your potential customers to do? So include a call to action, whether that is shop now, book now, inquire now, whatever you want them to do. Make sure that you make it very clear and simple in the email so they can take action and buy from your business. A lot of people ask me, how often should I be sending emails to my email list? I would say on a minimum basis, you want to be sending an email every 2 weeks, ideally once a week, especially if you are an e-commerce business. And then you want to increase that frequency when you have a big promotion. So for example, if you're doing a Black Friday promotion, or if you have a big Christmas promotion going on, you could almost send an email daily to keep your brand top of mind with your audience. Also creating deadlines and giving teasers and teasing things that you're going to be launching can help increase your sales. So for example, Cotton On Kids sent a teaser email to their audience to say we're releasing our Christmas pajamas. So they sent that the previous day with a countdown clock that made people sit up and take action. So more people would open the launch date email. And I thought that was very effective. So build up anticipation to your launches, make it exciting. And also you can add deadlines and countdowns to your emails to make people really feel like there's a time limit to this and they should take action and buy now so that they don't miss out. The fourth tip is to build trust by showing people or prospective customers that your brand is trustworthy. There's a number of ways that you can do this. Some examples are get really good reviews from customers and share those good reviews online. Get back to people quickly if they send you a DM on Instagram Messenger or on Facebook Messenger. Respond quickly, give them the information. Going live on social media, so going live and talking about your products or services and giving people a glimpse behind the scenes in your business or showing them how your product is made all helps to build layers of trust. Why is trust important? Because in an online environment, we don't have the physical interaction, obviously, that we have in a more traditional setting. So you need to constantly be signaling to your prospective customers that your brand is trustworthy, and doing that with things like awards, reviews is a signal to people that your brand is quality, can be trusted, and they can therefore hand over their money to you and they're going to get a good experience. Really, really important when it comes to online marketing. If you don't know where to start with building trust, here are 9 ideas. You might want to take a screen grab of this now, but some things that you can think about doing are, for example, as I said, going live on Instagram stories, hosting a video tour of your headquarters or your office, or where you produce your products or you deliver your services. You could do a Q&A with the head of the company. If that's you, great. If it's not, then maybe ask your CEO or your director if you could ask them a few questions and share that with your followers. Share behind the scenes or a day in the life of your business. People love to see a little glimpse behind the curtain of what's going on in your business. Share a failure or a vulnerability if things haven't worked out. That shows that you're human. It shows that you are relatable to your followers, and it builds that sort of respect for you, that you are honest and open and trustworthy. Another great idea is to share user-generated content. So if you have customers that are sharing your product or service on social media, then reshare that on your platform to show that other people are using the product and it can be trusted. Another example is to share a positive review, or if someone DMs you saying, oh my gosh, this is amazing, I love your product, or thank you so much for the great service. Ask them if you can share that message, take a screenshot, and then reshare it as content, again, to signal to prospective customers that your brand is trustworthy. If you've won an award or received accolades in your industry, tell people about it on social media. Great way to build trust, and also show the benefits of your products. If you have a physical product that's well made, throw it against a wall, show that people that it doesn't break, or if it has a great battery life or any positive benefits of your product, make sure that you're talking about them so that people will trust your brand and want to buy from you. And then my 5th tip is make buying easy. I've seen so many brands that make the mistake of not telling customers what to do or making it overly complicated to buy from them. So when the customer is ready to buy, they can't easily navigate where to give their money, where to hand over their money. So make buying simple. Some examples of how you can do this is by, for example, on Instagram, having a a link in your bio, so your profile. So when people click on it, they can easily find your online store or get in touch with you or subscribe to your mailing list. There's a tool called Link in Bio. If you Google it, you can create a really nice menu like this one on the left. So when people click on your Instagram bio, they can easily navigate to the various areas of your brand or your various offerings. So really great professional way to help people navigate where they want to get to within your online brand. If you sell a product, make sure that you're tagging your products on Instagram, that you have your catalog set up. Makes it easy for people to simply tap and find the exact product that you're talking about without having to sort of figure their way around your website, getting frustrated and leaving. You don't want to lose that sale. You've got a few seconds to get people's attention, to get them to take action. So you want to make that process as streamlined as possible. And then again, in your emails, make sure that you include clear call to action buttons. So when people want to buy, they can go straight to that product. For example, if you were selling, say, a face serum over here, you wouldn't want to then direct people to your homepage. You want to direct them exactly to that product so that they can't get lost having to navigate and figure their way out, finding it on your website. So direct them straight to the product. You're more likely to get sales that way. So just to recap quickly, the 5 tips for maximizing your online sales with social media over the key Christmas and summer sales period is number 1, plan. Set those summer sales goals. Make sure you have a revenue goal attached so that you can create content with intention. You know what it is you're aiming for, and it also comes across then clearly to your prospective customers. Number 2, invest in paid ads, not boosting posts, but paid ads through Business Manager. If you need more help with that, then you should definitely sign up for our membership where we teach small business owners how to invest in paid ads in the right way without wasting loads of money. I'll give you more info on that in a second. And then email marketing. Send more regular emails to your mailing list. Make sure you include clear calls to action to maximize your sales. 4th, build trust. But customers won't buy from brands they don't trust online. Ways you can build trust is to ask people for reviews, share positive reviews, show up online, show your face, go live, answer questions, be responsive in DMs, share awards that you've won. And then finally, make the buying process easy. Minimize the amount of steps between finding your brand online and actually checking out and buying. So make that process clear and simple, minimize the steps in between, make sure your website is easy to navigate and easy to use, and you will get great sales over the festive period. So I hope that's helped you so much. Just wanted to give you those areas that you can focus on in your business. If you want more tips like this and more help with selling on social, then make sure you follow us at Alphabet Social on Instagram and TikTok. We share constant tips. Also subscribe to our mailing list. If you click the link in my bio, you can get onto our mailing list. We send tips to help you maximize your online sales every single week. And also you can join the waitlist for our monthly membership where we train small business owners on social media, showing them exact strategies they can implement to grow and maximize their revenue. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Proudly SA for having me today. It's been wonderful spending this brief time with you. All the best for maximizing your online sales. You've got this. Go for it. Thanks so much. I'm Lee from Alphabet Social. It's been great being here, and all the best to you.
Lee, thank you so much indeed. That was a power-packed presentation. Lee Tobin is the founder of Alphabet Social. Let's segue now, if we can, straight into Liz Letswalo, who is the founder of Masodi Organics. Let's hear what lesson she has for us as we approach this Christmas festive season.
Storytelling is a huge part of what I do as a beauty and wellness founder. And one of the things I've seen is that you cannot achieve impact in this space without actually making time to engage, connect, and really hear people out. The wellness story is way broader than just beauty and wellness as we offer it today. And part of the journey for our growth is also engaging with other people, listening to their needs, and also just really getting to empathize and understand the human story and the shared experiences. It's always an absolute pleasure and honor when we can get to experience these kinds of moments, the shared humanity moments.
And that is another South African brand success story. Folks, we are coming to the end of our conversation, so I'm going to ask all three of our live panel members just to share some closing thoughts with us. And Dumi Mahlangu, first of all, founder and managing director of Chepa Streetwear. As we then approach this festive season, what have you got in store? How is your customer engagement strategy changing?
Well, so this is the time that we so we invest more in our ads, so that we can be able to get the traction, the visit on our platforms. But also we find that during this time, we've got a lot more customers walking into our store. So there's a nice balance. Whereas during the course of the year, there's a 60% online purchase and 40% in-store purchase. So I'd say, look, to entrepreneurs, it's what Pilisa was saying, make sure that you've got your stock in check. Factories are going to close. So before they close, make sure that your stock is in check. Prepare your staff for the overflow of orders. Make sure that your time schedules are transparent. Your staff knows when they work and when they're not working, because it's silly season right now. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what we do during this period, because we know it's a very, very crucial time for us.
It's been a privilege and an honor talking to you this afternoon. And I just hope as your business grows and your career goes from success to success, Dumi, I hope you have a little bit more sleep in your life. That's the most important thing that I can say to you. Nonnie, of course, as we come to you for some closing remarks, you'll be hoping that there's lots of sunshine during this festive period so people can buy, use, sample your product. How does your approach change over the festive period? Are you going to be doing anything differently?
Yes, I should, I will. Last year, what I did towards the end of the year, I introduced a new gin. It was an exclusive edition, and it was dedicated to my late husband, and it was it had like a shimmer, and I did so that it looked like a globe, Christmas globe. And what I did, I got people to guess what the flavor was, which was candy floss. And I'm thinking, just after while Lee was talking and talking about the 90-day, the planning, part of the plan maybe should be that people should guess what is the flavor for this year for Christmas of the limited edition. And then it can start people, then they'll start guessing, and then whoever guesses the correct one can win the same gin. And I think I've learned quite a lot from her as well with what Lee was saying about mentioning the awards that you've won, because that also gains credibility. And I remember why I entered the awards, it was because I wanted credibility, because we're in the middle of lockdown. And I thought, once the lockdown comes up, at least then I'll have that credibility. But somehow you forget why you start certain things, and it goes to the back of your mind. But besides that, I also tried in beginning of 2020 to partner with a local gin brand that was gaining a lot of traction. And I thought, how about two South African women doing a gin together, and we could come up with a new flavor. And I thought it was a great idea, but she had too many gatekeepers and I couldn't get to her. But lo and behold, I won a double gold at the International Michelangelo Wine and Spirit Award, and she was just right under me for her other gin. And, it got me to realize that sometimes we want things that are just not even necessary. We're on the same level at those awards. And it wasn't necessary that I had to thought, and I thought I had to partner with an credible company and be out there and piggyback on each other. And it didn't work. It worked out better that I got my own award on my own product. So we need to start trusting and believing that we can do it. And it will manifest in being able to do it. And I think Dumi was also correct by saying that, you know, we need to get the stock correct, because factories are going to close and there'll be limited resources, limited products, limited ingredients, limited everything else. So we need to be ready and be able to give people what we say we can give.
Nani, thank you so much. Such incredible advice coming from you this afternoon. And again, as I said to Dumi, I wish you nothing but success in your continuing business journey. Polisa Makolo from SPA, I'll give you the final word as we bring this webinar to a close. Just in terms of advice to proudly South African suppliers, where does their headspace need to be over this festive period?
Thank you, Jeremy. I think once again, a lot of it has been shared by my fellow panelists, but just a few points are noted down just to close. I think make sure that you have the right stock in the right stores. South Africans tend to move around a lot, right? So everybody in Joburg comes down to Durban and everybody else goes down to the garden route, especially from a food point of view. So please make sure that you understand the dynamics and the shifts in terms of what happens during this time of the year. It's probably going to be the first normal Christmas we've had in about 2 years. So
2 years.
And I don't even know what normal is, Jeremy, because normal is not normal these days. But so your planning is going to be very important. You don't want to be sitting with excess stock. You don't want to be understocked. So you want to monitor that rate of sale from basically call it mid-November. Customers are time-starved. So simplify. If you got a broad range, narrow it down, give it focus, cut back on your slow-selling SKUs or slow-selling products. Focus on what really sells during this period. Economy is tough for everyone. So basically trying to earn a bit of extra margin in this time is not going to help. Rather bank on your volume. So lower your margin to get an upside in terms of volume. As you ramp up towards the volumes and planning for festive, don't compromise on quality, because I think the long-term damages are just going to be just much, much worse. And I think lastly, Jeremy, have some contingency plan, have some emergency contact numbers. Don't expect a normal Christmas. It will be normal Christmas for everyone, and you can have your Christmas on the back end of Christmas. Yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much. And to all our panel members for an insightful 2 hours that has really flown by. I want to finish with 3 thoughts, if I may. The first is, and we didn't really touch on this, but it's a given, it's a hygiene factor. But don't forget that customer service is the most crucial pillar in retail, accentuated even more during this Christmas season. As Dumi so eloquently explained to us at the beginning of this webinar, at any time of the year, data is your friend, but all of this does come home to roost during the festive season. So make absolutely sure, and this point has been made 3 or 4 times, check your records to see what sold well last year, so you can amplify and regurgitate and repeat if you have to. And then the point that Lee was making and my other panel members, make sure that everything you do is promoted across all your social media platforms. And it's critical that you keep that momentum going so that you are always top of mind. It's been an absolute pleasure being part of this conversation. To all of our proudly South African entrepreneurs that have been listening today, thank you. I wish you well over the festive season. I wish you prosperity. I wish you safety, and thank you so much for joining us. At this point, everybody, the webinar comes to an end. Thank you so much, and goodbye to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, everybody. Bye.